Call to order the 930th meeting of the Directors of MSAD 27. Roll call.
Kelly.
Here.
Shannon Lugden.
Here.
Katie Lavasser.
Here.
David Saucier.
Here.
Tanya Wazin.
Here.
Toby Jandro.
Here.
Sarah Ashley.
Here.
Quinn Michelle.
Before we start, can we make the lights brighter? Just a little?
Working on my hands.
All right, so approval of minutes.
I can make the motion to approve the meeting for the minutes for the meeting 929 on December 20th.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
One abstain.
One abstention? I'm assuming you're not against it, just abstaining?
I'm not against
Okay. Thank you. Now, we have a couple financial reports, November and December 2023.
Do you see these make my eyes cross? What do I need to know? Nothing unusual happened in the last couple months. One of the months, I believe it is December, has 3 pays as compared to last month at the same time, so that's why just about every line looks like it's higher. But other than that, everything is just as normal. Normal expenses.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it falls into this, but I'll ask it under this. The solar farm staff electric, is that online? Are we getting any savings from that? Do we
This
know anything
district?
about it?
I don't have, we have 3 different, I don't think this one's up and running yet. I'll make a note to find out what the time frame is on that. This one is moved out, right?
Any other questions on the financial reports? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Shannon moves.
And I can second.
Tanya seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. We have some presentation.
We do. We have our leadership team members here from Fort Kenna Elementary and Valley Rivers and Community High School. And because it is mid-year, they are going to update you on mid-year progress on their school-wide goals. So I'm going to leave it to the teams to get us started.
I don't know if we need introductions or...
Yeah, go for it. Let's introduce you.
My name is Amy Lack, I teach kindergarten. I'm Lynn Ford, I teach third grade. Kelly Marquis, I teach in Rise, 4th through 6th grade. So at the beginning of the year, we talked about the goals that we chose for the year, and one of them was a writing goal, so we're just here to kind of talk to you about where we're at with that. I just want to talk to you a little bit about some of the resources that we're using. We have a school resource from pre-K to 6 that everybody is using, and I can kind of send that around. So we pick, grade levels will pick strategies from that book to work on as far as their writing. And then grade levels also picked a resource book. This book is for pre-K through 1st. 2nd grade picked this one.
And then our wing, 2nd and 3rd has their own book that they're using. And then C-wing has their own.
Yeah, in the C-wing, there's a couple different choices. The cohorts chose what would suit them best. So these are a couple other examples.
There's also an example of one of our school-wide rubrics stuff in there as well. And they're really cool. They're nice, easy lessons that you can deliver with like mini lessons at the beginning of any reading. And we basically use those resources to help us, like Lynn's going to talk about. We had Narrative November. We're coming up to March, so I guess we're going to call it March Madness. So we use those books to help us, get ready for big writing pieces.
So we met over the summer before school started, And that's when we rolled out which wings, which cohorts would be using which book. So we all had a voice in what that was going to look like. School year started, fast forward a little bit, and we brainstormed and came up with the idea of showcasing student writing. And we came up with the theme of Narrative November, which tied into parent-teacher conferences. So we met as wings, cohorts, and then school-wide, and everybody had a choice as to which writing they wanted to present. And there are 3 standards that we focus on throughout the year, narratives being one, persuasive, and informative. And I think it's fair to say, for the most part, everybody went narrative because that's where we were, but you still had choice as to what you wanted to display. And it was really cool because as you walked through the entire school, every wing was displaying student writing, and you really saw the progression of what it looked like from pre-K, where you're just starting with pictures. Kindergarten, you were starting to get into letters and basic words, and then you progress right through paragraphing to 6th grade, where it was more specialized. So it was really cool for the staff to see, the parents to see, as well as the kids. We did a lot of walkthroughs, so kids could walk through the whole school, and work was posted everywhere. C-Wing to help with the displays of student work. Locker magnets were purchased because it's harder in C-Wing because of the lockers to display work. So that was purchased so children could put their work right on their locker. So it was really cool. And we all talked about dropping the ball in the sense of not taking pictures. Something we'll do next year, but it really was awesome and it was well received.
And continuing that, well, first of all, with the magnets and stuff in C-Wing, they were really, really proud of that because they never really had a chance to showcase anything. They would do their writing presented in class and they would go home. But so that was really nice to see that excitement with their writing. So to continue with that, and all the work that we've been doing, we've decided to do another similar event for the parent-teacher conferences that will be coming up in March. But that we're going to leave open to keep the choice because we have been working with so many different strategies, and I guess each classroom has something different that they want to be proud of, or even if they do it individually, that the kids can showcase. So we're going with March Madness writing. It'll be mad because you can kind of go anywhere with it, right? So it's, and just again, just to show that progression from pre-K all the way up to 6th grade. And then making sure that we have the time to have our kids go through this time too, because that is something we talked about. And having someone take pictures, because we were busy during conferences, so we didn't have a chance to get out, so we will have to push that role. We're going to continue developing this because when we meet in cohorts, we're practicing those strategies, and we're taking samples of our kids' writing and pulling it together so that we have examples to go off of when we are mentor texts for our rubrics that we're creating. That's all come from our kids. And it just sparks really great conversation because we always talk about how we need more time together. So it's been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're the middle school VRMS CHS leadership team. I'm Leslie Marquis. I teach science at the high school level. I'm also the alpine coach and really practice right now, so sorry, a little underdressed. I'm Lauren Wizin. I'm the senior English teacher as well as some junior students as well.
Guerrette here, I teach middle school math and robotics.
So at the beginning of the year when we presented our goals, one of the big goals that we were going to be focusing on this year was supporting our teachers in proficiency-based instruction. And we shared with you some of the units that we had planned and discussed how it was now going to be incorporated in part of our evaluation process. So part of that was creating a learning progression and really focusing on what we're assessing students on, being very transparent in what we're asking of them, providing a standard and how are you going to get there. And then also part of that unit plan was reflection, which has been probably, I'm on cycle this year, I had to do one of these unit plans, and the reflection piece was probably something that I got out of it the most. But it's been great to see. We're halfway through the year. It seems like there's a lot more uniformity in our proficiency-based instruction. People are kind of focusing back in on standards, how we're teaching them, how we're assessing them. So it's been really good. I think as we become more, we create more and more of these units. I believe Sharon will be putting them on the website for the public to access as well, in case there's an interest there. But this is our first year at this goal, and everyone who's on site has been asked to create one unit plan, and it's been really well. It's been really well.
And a spin-off from that, kind of relates to that, is last year we started reading a text, a tool, teaching with clarity, and part of it was, okay, how can we be more clear with our rubrics and our expectations with our students, but the other part was also, being more uniform in our language and in our verbiage, cross-curricular, what we're expecting our students to do. So that if they go from one class to another, it's not like having separate little worlds, it should all kind of flow together. So one of our goals this year is to work cross-curricular grade level teams to come up with that verbiage, like for example, if we're having them do any sort of writing, they should have a claim, they should have evidence, they should have reasoning to back it up. And so that's, kind of what does it mean, discuss, and so we have, common expectations, and our goal is to create posters by the fourth quarter to have in our classrooms that, portray these words that they should know as they go from one class to another. So, yeah.
And then on our workshop days, on our early release days, and on our workshop days, and using those goals, we know that not every topic, every subject area is at the same place, and so we're alternating days on what we're doing on our workshop days, and so we have full staff workshops that deal with things like AI. And so we've had a workshop that deals with that, where all our staff work on AI, dealing with assessment, scoring and feedback, lesson planning, so that everybody has an opportunity to do that. And then other days where content areas are working on our 2 goals and in continuing our study with teaching with clarity, and where the content areas get to work with the topics that they need to deal with, whether it's rubrics or whether it's assessments, whether it's things like that, or realigning their standards so that each topic area gets to work with what they need to do.
Thank you.
I have a quick question about the AI. So when you're talking about, what is that? Are you trying to figure out how to use AI to make your teaching better, or are you trying to figure out how the kids are using it to cheat, or to teach them to use it to be better students?
Teach us to
teach you all. Okay.
Well, it's been really great because we've had, Sharon has gone to workshops, and Robin has been a really good resource when it comes to AI. Don Schnard went to an MLTI conference, and he came back, and what our goal is as teachers, especially English teachers, is to be really aware of how to use it, and how, especially to help our students use it as a tool, because they're going to go off to college next year, and I know I'm talking to some college students, some who are going to college now, they're using it, and prolifically, and but it's to help them figure out, how to use it as a tool to guide maybe their research. So for instance, let's say they have an essential question, and they're going to do a research paper based on that essential question. ChatGPT can really help them come up with an outline, and that can guide their research. So here's the deal. This is my first year teaching senior English. Big thing they're doing is their senior projects, and it's so funny because, old-fashioned me, doing the old-fashioned way, and then we started having the AI workshops, and I'm like, ooh, that's cool, because they had worked on they had their essential question, they had done their annotated bibliographies, right? So I'm like, okay, now we got to generate an outline, and then we had that. So we generated it through ChatGPT. It's so funny because one of my students, we were in the trenches in that there, and about, several lessons in, she's like, Miss Cuisine, she said, next year, I think you should do this the other way around. And you know what? I told her, you're absolutely right, because it gave her, she started back in her research, and she was finding more pieces of evidence that could help her with her research paper. So it's using it as a tool and helping them to learn that it can be a tool. I'm sorry.
And
No, that's great.
what I did at before the holidays, we wanted a review of all the topics we've done. So what I did was I went to ChatGPT and I said I want low floor, high ceiling problems that deal with these standards, and it gave me, and I typed it in exactly like that, and it gave me low floor, high ceiling. That means that low entry, but challenging enough for the kids who are high performing, and it gave me those problems, and I wanted a certain number of them, and I wanted the answer key to make sure, and whatever, and it gave me exactly those problems, the number of problems I wanted, and an answer key, and that I wanted ideas for how to deliver this to middle school students. And it gave me exactly that. So I had so we did a scavenger hunt in each classroom, in each middle school classroom, with those problems. And it was amazing. The kids loved it. And that's how we did before the holidays.
So I think instead of cross and bang, we have to really kind of look at it as a tool for teachers, which it can be a very good, useful tool for teachers for lesson planning, and a tool for students. And it's better to be, and having the time to be able to work and share those ideas has been amazing. We really appreciate that, because we get going and it's like at 3 o'clock, everybody's like, oh my God, and getting through every day. But having that time to be able to have those discussions, super valuable to work on, whether it's our goals or these other types of activities that are coming down the pipe. We have to stay current, and that's the only way we can do it. Thank you.
A quick question on
Another
that.
question?
Yeah, how are we ensuring, though, that the students are using AI as a tool only and doing their long-form research and really going out there and
okay. So you're very right with that, because as an English teacher, so I had them do annotated bibliographies for their resources, and all the English teachers at the high school, that's pretty much what we have them do. They have to really know their resources, and you can't really have AI generate an analysis of it, because if you've used AI, it'll talk about the topic, but it won't talk about, let's say, the rhetorical techniques the author used, how credible the source is, and stuff like that. So when we're having them do a research project, yes, they have to look for information. They have to really know their resources, and they have to be able to talk about the credibility of the resources in their discussion in their research paper. So here's the thing, and I've been reading a lot about it. Okay, so good writing teachers are still going to teach our students how to write and use this as a tool, and think, and process, and analyze, and critical thinking skills. AI is not going to be the critical thinking skill of the guru there. It's going to, but it might get better at it, I guess, maybe. It will, oh my God. But the other thing is knowing our students. My colleague, do I still have time? My colleague, Mr. Chenard, he had his juniors generate a research paper using AI. And he had them give all the parameters, right? And then he had them read it to him. And it was words they didn't even know or know how to use. And I share that with my students all the time. I've taught some of them, this is my 3rd year running with them. I know them. I know they're not going to say certain words or put their grammar and syntax together. So it's pretty obvious if you know your students and the way you're developing that scaffolding for the writing, it's really hard for them to just AI. And then a lot of they're working right in class. They have busy lives. A lot of them don't do homework after school. They're working, they're in sports, whatever. So a lot of it, and I use the land school. We kind of watch what they're doing. They're mostly playing games if they're not. Any other questions? Good question though. It's something that we really walk in the tightrope on.
Yeah, it's a fantastic tool. I just want to make sure that it's stays a tool. We can still go to the encyclopedia and get those skills.
For the most part, I think it's making us rethink what we ask students to do outside of classrooms versus inside of classrooms. Because it's going to be very simple to use those tools to get out of getting work. So teachers are maximizing their time in classrooms now more than ever, where they can control the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. it's you.
So I have a couple things to just report out. The first one is an outdoor learning grant opportunity. In your packet, you should have had that 2024 Maine Outdoor Learning Initiative Molly grant information. It's the third year of this grant opportunity in 2022. It was based around the coastal, exploring the coastal Maine regions and grants associated with coastal regions. In 2023, it was expanded a little bit, but did not include, nature full force. Whereas this year, it's expanded completely, where they're looking for any type of learning experiences associated with the nature in Maine. So when this came out, it came out in November, and we knew that December 1, the grant was going to be open. It did pique our interest. And we met as a team, and it was actually Mr. Steve Doucette that came up with an idea of, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had some kind of outdoor classroom really embedded in nature and accessible to the wonders of nature, including access to water and that type of thing. Our gears started turning, and we thought about the Allagash waterway, but we know that the restrictions on the waterway are pretty restrictive to that kind of exploration. So then we turned our attention to the chain lakes here in the area. And we reached out to Irving Woodlands. We actually had a meeting with some Irving reps on January 9, and essentially got their support they're going to be looking at leasing us some land if we get approved in this grant, where we could actually utilize that land for the purpose of this grant. We submitted the application on the 12th of January, and we're hoping to hear back in the upcoming months whether or not we're approved. Essentially, in the grant, we have tools to access the wilderness, canoes, kayaks, fishing poles, that type of thing. But we're also looking for tents for overnight activities, and a very large pavilion where we would put an actual outdoor classroom. We're not sure exactly which piece of land Irving will approve for us, but they're currently looking at some different options on some different lakes. We had a beautiful spot that we thought we would like to claim, the Xerxes camps on Square Lake, but it was apparent in our meeting that that land already has a plan. Irving already has a plan for that piece of land. We were so excited that we actually got in my truck and went up there before submitting the grant, just so that we could see it, and it's just a beautiful spot. But we're very excited about this, and we're hopeful that we do get selected. We feel like we have a very good shot. Our grant total requested is $377,510, and there is $2 million available in the grant. This is kind of the last bit of COVID money that the state has. So we're hopeful, we're optimistic, and we'd like to report back on a positive grant if we get it. And so more to come on that when we find out if we're selected. Any questions on that?
On the leased land, would this grant roll over to pay for the leased land every year?
Yeah, so how many years did we put, Peter? 30 years of a lease agreement, based on what Irving kind of gave us a heads up on what their requirement would be.
Is that a donation by Irving of the lease?
We would be paying it out of the grant, but I think they're giving us a donation because they're not charging us a whole lot for that lease.
There are available already some facilities that are underused and could be worked up cooperatively with other groups. Boy Scouts in Fort Kent have a camp on Mulgrass Lake. It's very loose, and it has all the things already made.
Really?
Well, they might say, no, you can't have our camp. But they might also say, you know what? We'd like to see it used more. It's a great facility. And yeah, let's work something out. So if you don't get the grant,
yeah,
probably have this thing.
Oh, awesome.
Or there's just one suggestion. There's a lot of other possibilities, I think.
I heard that you had some knowledge about this. So,
A lot of it learned the hard way.
yeah. Yeah, definitely, I would like to pick your brain on that for sure. If either if this does get selected or if it doesn't, either way. The second thing I have is a Recovery High School opportunity. We're very, very preliminarily having conversations with UMFK at the potential for a Recovery High School. And I did in your notes give you kind of a blurb about what Recovery High Schools are. Essentially, it would be for students who are in recovery from substance disorders or co-occurring disorders. We would be targeting eight students in this pilot of a Recovery High School. We've met with UMFK a couple of times, and unlike other Recovery High Schools across the country, none of which are in Maine right now, there are 0 Recovery High Schools in Maine. If this were to take off, we would be the only Recovery High School that would offer lodging, and UMFK would be, looks like would be willing to provide that lodging in the old Nowlin Hall? Howell Hall. And also offering us one of their houses as classroom space for the students. What our next steps would be to basically appeal to the legislature in Maine to see if the state would be willing to provide us funding, initial funding to get this off the ground and running in a pilot. And then if that happens and everything works out with UMFK, come to you with a formal proposal of what it all looks like and how we plan to make it sustainable beyond seed money. And hopefully it's something that would be here to stay. We've been noticing over the past few years that more and more students in the St. John Valley could benefit from a program like this, and we're optimistic that once we approach people in Augusta who have similar mindset, we're optimistic that we will have something that the state will help us with, but right now it's just, as I said, preliminarily being discussed. Peter, did you want to add anything to that? Because you are...
Just that we're looking for funding for a 3-year pilot, an implementation year over a 5-year year, and then a year that reflects adaptations and adjustments. Should be pretty smooth functioning. And that would come with a price tag of approximately $500,000 for a 3-year pilot.
In addition to some dorm space and some classroom space, we also visited the dining hall at UMFK, and they have a back room for faculty, their old faculty dining area, and they, in the conversations, they would be willing to offer that space for this cohort of students as well for a dining area. So it looks like we have a partner who's willing to give this a go with UMFK. Again, it would just come down to whether or not we would be supported by the state.
So we would be providing the staff?
We would hire staff. One learning facilitator, one teacher, essentially a social worker, and then we're working with UMFK for opportunities where they can offer their students to be like residential directors for this cohort of students. So it would be a partnership that way, offering them some experiences that they wouldn't otherwise get.
How receptive do you think that community members are going to be, like, to using that?
Community members?
Well, yeah, how is that going to work? Like, is it just going to be open to anybody in the state that can be transferred?
No, a priority would be to St. John Valley students.
Right.
And then if we could not fill the seats with St. John Valley students, we would offer it to Aroostook County schools as well.
So would they be paying a tuition into the program?
Correct.
Then?
Correct. Yeah. That would essentially be their programming until they're, until they're released from whatever programs they.
So would the cost be from the family, or would the cost be from, like, if a Caribou student came here, would it be like the state money that would have gone to Caribou would come here
Right, the
instead?
subsidy would follow the student. The subsidy,
School districts would refer.
So there would be no cost to the family?
correct. Yeah.
Other than transporting their students to and from over the weekend. The residential component is during the school week.
Monday to Friday?
And then there'll be a recovery coach that will work every day with students individually and collectively, in addition to the academic programming. And the recovery coach will work with those students about sobriety plans for their weekend stays, and will work with the families regarding how she's helped their children implement those sobriety plans during the weekends, and then eventually reintegrate back into their homes and their schools of origin with a complete sobriety plan in place.
That's incredible.
And you said there's already 8 students that are eligible, or is there just only 8 slots?
That's what we would offer.
A limit of 8 right now, Kenya, because we want to start small.
Yeah.
We want to basically capitalize in the 3rd year on lessons learned from years 1 and 2. And then after a good solid 3rd year, we can look at expanding. But we would probably limit, if we kept only 1 teacher and 1 recovery coach, we'd probably limit, cap enrollments at 12 maximum, in order to keep the ratios reasonable for treatment and academic progress purposes.
I deal with little ones all day, so I don't understand the whole other end of the adolescent chain, so I didn't realize that this is that big of a issue at that end.
And you can go online. There's an association of recovery high schools. They're all over the nation. Like I said earlier, there's none in Maine. The closest one, I believe, is in Massachusetts, Peter.
Massachusetts has 5, Rhode Island has 1. There are none known in Maine. But the National Recovery High School Association has 47 member entities.
What's the wait list on those? Like if one of our students wanted to go to one of those programs, would there even be an opportunity?
No, those are pretty much set up to serve different communities and regions within those states.
Is there an age requirement? Sorry.
It would be for high school students.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be only for high
Grades
school.
9 through 12.
Yeah.
So where are these kids today?
These kids are in our high schools in St. John County.
How's that one?
Not well.
I love that there would be a social worker type person for them that they could have access to right away, all day, every day, while they're here. That's,
Who will be actively working with them,
Right.
proactively.
oh, that's amazing. Yeah, this is really awesome.
What brunt of the cost would be, I mean, other than the startup grant that we're gonna be requesting, like what does SAD 27 look at for financial responsibility to fund this program?
Yeah, so she's asking about funding, Peter. What funding would be, what SAD 27 would be responsible for as far as future funding for this program? And I think the answer to that is, let's say we're sending 4 students out of 8 there. The subsidy that would normally come here to the district for those 4 would be going to that program. It would still be run by SAD 27. It's just a reallocation to where the students are being placed.
So it would be fiscally or all of their budget would be built off the subsidies from the 8 students.
Correct.
Okay.
Tuition being paid
So it should be
from-
self-sustaining. Fingers crossed.
Well, right now, for the 3-year pilot, 65% of the funding would have to come from the state of Maine, and various agencies within the state or the local legislature. In Massachusetts, the Department of Education is responsible for the oversight and administration of the recovery high schools that are run regionally, and they rely on a mix of tuition and state funding to operate their schools. So I think we're always going to have a certain level of dependency on state funding. I don't know whether it will always be 65%, and that will be part of our long-term sustainability plan, is to examine that.
the way we're looking at it is the state of Maine willing to make an investment with this with us?
No, I certainly hope so. But like, is it going to be like UMFK that's responsible for the hiring of the teacher and?
SAD 27 would be.
Right, so that's going to be our cost. Like, we're going to be employing the teacher and the social worker.
But the funds that go towards the program are going to pay those wages. So we're not adding additional people without the funding being there.
For the first 3 years.
For the first 3 years, and then sustainably beyond that is we'd like to show a successful pilot so that the state of Maine continues to fund it beyond the pilot. Because that's what they do in other states.
Okay, perfect. No, like that's, I mean, it's all new, so I kind of wanted to.
No, it's super important that
get an idea.
the finance, we don't want something that's going to be a cost burden to SAD 27 moving forward. It has to be a partnership with the state of Maine.
Yeah.
And hopefully a model that takes off in other communities.
Well, right, yeah. And I just hope it's receptive where parents utilize this right now, so, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Do the parents have to give permission, or does the school state they should be?
Parents always have to give permission unless the child is 18 years old.
Parents together with students would have to sign basically a contract that would govern the expectations of them, participation in treatment, as well as engagement and investment in their academic programming. So that would all be there.
Do we have any resources available right now to these students? Like, I don't know, like through the social worker?
We do the best that we can with what we have. You know, a lot of times the academic solution for some of these kiddos is to try alternative education programs, the CTE programming at the tech center, but the heart of the problem is never being solved because we don't have that abundant of resources, you know. We just have general resources.
Yeah, like the general population has.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the chain that I'm trying to follow is like right now they have mental health services and, you know, through our social worker, they can make those connections and stuff like that. So if that's not working, I'm wondering if it's not working because of a lack of availability of our, you know, services in the community, or is it because the lack of parental?
There's evidence that this is a statewide issue. The 2002 State Community Health Needs Assessment regularly cited as critical resources, social work services, and even some chemical health services in schools. But what they did find is there isn't enough of them to serve all the needs, and there's not enough coordination between schools and mental health providers because of a shortage of mental health providers and difficulty accessing those services. And so a recovery high school is built on that daily coordination between an educational entity and a critical mental health and social work provider.
Easier access, yeah, for sure.
And that's the beauty of it.
Perfect.
So we're really trying to kind of close those gaps here for the St. John Valley, and hopefully in the process, build a model that the rest of the state can aspire to.
Great idea. Perfect.
Are we looking at fall 24?
No.
Fall 25?
Timeline?
When are we going to start this? Next week?
We were actually hopeful of maybe getting it online for 24, 25. I'm not sure if that's going to be feasible at this point, but we certainly want it up and running by 25, 26 at the latest. We haven't quite given up on 24, 25. That'll depend on how quickly we can get access to the St. John Valley Legislative Delegation and how quickly they can connect us with some of the key players in Augusta who can, with authority, determine whether or not they can fund our time. But we do have staff in mind. One of our first alternative schooling educators is very interested in becoming the teacher for this program and has extensive knowledge on addiction and recovery. And I think a caseload of 8 would be very attractive licensed clinical social worker with substance abuse certification.
Good stuff. So more to come on that.
I just want to, like, we sit here every month, and we go through stuff, and we look through these agendas, and we go through and we vote on things. This might be like the first time I feel like, oh my gosh, we're gonna actually really make a difference, like for real. So good job. Like, I don't know where that started, but this is incredible. This is so good for our valley.
With a dissertation focus by one of our alternative educators. She brought the concept to my attention and said, how do we move forward? So we put together a synopsis.
Let's make her the president.
Moving forward.
Can we say who
Good
she
work.
is?
I'm so proud of us.
Give her credit where she has due.
Peter, can we give credit to that teacher, please?
Mrs. Brooknell is the one who brought the concept to my attention, and she and I worked together to put together a synopsis. She and I then at the meeting with representatives from the UMK. And Sean Graham is also instrumental in bringing people from UMK to the table.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Other than that, under my report, I have administrator reports, and you should have one from Mr. Doucette, Mr. Kevin Anderson, Mr. Peter Saucier, and then Ms. AnnMarie Guerrette. Ms. Guerrette is not here tonight. She was unable to attend, and so was Mr. Saucier. He's unable to be here as well.
Any questions for Mr. Doucette or Mr. Anderson who are here? Seeing none, I think we'll take the next step.
All right, under committee reports, policy committee, we just have a few policies. The first two are first read review policies. In your packet, you should have policy HB, which is negotiation legal status, as well as policy HG, which is superintendent's role in negotiation. The policy committee has no recommendation for changes on these two policies. They're review only, just so they could be updated. The last time they were reviewed was 2000, so they are definitely due for review. And because this is just a review and there are no changes, we could move to approve the review of these two policies, unless you have questions or comments.
Are there any questions or comments on these two policies? Reservations, anything? I'll move to accept the review of these two.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
The next policy you have is HA, and that is negotiation goals, priority objectives. And you'll see that this one has a recommendation for a rewrite, essentially eliminating what was there and having a simple statement: the board shall negotiate with its employees' bargaining units in accordance with municipal public employees labor relations law. This is recommended by Maine School Management as the update to policy HA. The second one is HF, board negotiating agents, and there's just a small add-on to the second sentence. A contracted service for a lead negotiator may be utilized. is added in HF. Because these are revised and it's a first read, the board does not need to take any action at this time, but I will take any questions you have.
We talked about this a little bit when we had our policy meeting about how we approach negotiating. And I don't know if it needs to go into the policy or if we can just have a discussion about this, but I think we discussed the possibility of having the board kind of outline prior to negotiations what goals we're hoping to meet as a board with negotiations and what we're hoping to get to.
Yep.
Did you put that somewhere else?
I did. I put it as new business item D.
All right, I'll leave it alone then. We'll talk about it then.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Toby, were you asking whether that step should be included in a policy?
Well, we can talk about that when we get to it as new business.
Fine.
Any questions on those two? We'll review them again next time as a second read.
No questions. Thank you, man.
And then we do have a second read policy, that's on GBCC, employee use of cell phones. You saw it as a first read last meeting. And the additional language on that last paragraph of the first page, based upon need and availability, has been added. And then on the following page, in added paragraph about school unit owned cell phones, and then a reference to following Maine law in the bottom section. Because this is second read, we could move to approve the revised policy, if you so choose.
I'll move to, I move to approve the second read of GBCC.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
No, my opposition.
Opposed by David? Said opposed by David.
Moving on to items of business, we have old business, and under old business we have the Valley Unified Shared Services, which has been updated to 24-25. I provided you a copy of those shared services, and you will see that the Assistant Superintendent Services have been updated to a Director of Human Services. Also updated the responsibilities, where some of the assistant superintendent, her responsibilities have been added under the superintendent, specific to student and staff safety and equity of cultural responsiveness. And then one has been added under the Director of Finance, the oversight of facilities, transportation, and technology departments. And then the Director of Human Services also has updated job responsibilities, employee acquisition and management, organizational policy, procedures, and compliance, employee relations, benefits administration, and then HR, technology, and data management. I also provided you with the job description. I think I did anyway. Might have been, it was the last meeting I provided you with those job description, but one thing that we discussed at the Valley Unified level was to not have a Director of Human Resources be the lead negotiator in negotiations for the 3 SAUs. I do believe that is a smart move, whereas each district can handle negotiations based on what the school boards decide versus what a school or a Valley Unified administrator guides us on. They will solely be just a resource person, as well as a superintendent and the Director of Finance. We also, in the shared services, removed the reference of shared central office services on the second page. So all of that note of, we might share central office staff is eliminated, and we're just currently limited to superintendent, director of finance, and director of human services if this were to be approved. Because this is something that the Valley Unified Board would be approving, you would simply be either giving your support for it or not, so that Toby and Shannon have some guidance when they go to the next Valley Unified Board meeting. You also have two documents that are also there, and this comes from Kelly's question last meeting to find out how cost savings are figured out with regards to what we have under Valley Unified versus what we paid solely as a district, SAD 27, prior to Valley Unified. So Lucy has given two snapshots. The first one is a 2020-21 snapshot, and the second one is this school year snapshot. What you see in the left-hand corner are services that SAD 27 paid for 100% prior to Valley Unified. So you paid a superintendent salary and benefits, you paid a finance director salary and benefits, a technology integrator, a adult education director. So you paid those positions, those positions, and also those services, Tyler Technology, Time Clock Plus, so on and so forth. At the bottom, you see some additional positions that have been added since Valley Unified, and then some additional services. And using that formula of now what we pay as a shared proportion versus full cost, you can see the total savings at the bottom. In 2020-21, we were saving $186,000 as a district, and this year saving $243,512 based on those positions that we paid 100% back then. Did I explain that well, Lucy? Yeah. And Lucy can answer any questions you have about that, if you have any.
So with the Valley Unified shared positions, is that basically free in the Valley Unified? So we all pay a third of the salaries?
It's actually, there's a cost.
There's 5 positions.
5 positions, and it's based on a cost share formula in the Valley Unified Agreement. That's based on 50% is based on your total pupils, and the other 50% is on valuation, and that comes up with an amount that each district pays. SAD 27's appropriation of that is 51% of the overall total cost. Madawaska is about 33%, and SAD 33 is about 14% or 15%, whatever's left. Positions, however, like Ms. Chassey's curriculum coordinator position, is exactly a third, because it was decided outside of Valley Unified, and the work is the same because she only has one curriculum to coordinate, so the 3 districts share that cost.
We're paying a bigger percentage. Is it because our population is more?
Correct. Yeah. We have about 55% of the overall student population here in SAD 27.
Having Valley Unified, are we getting more grant funding to keep Valley Unified, or what's the incentives? I see the amounts here and I understand that, but what's the incentive of having Valley Unified compared to not having Valley Unified? Is it the amount of teachers that we get to keep? And
so because you are saving on some key administrative roles, like nobody likes having a bunch of administrators who get paid a lot of money, right? They want more teachers in their classroom. So let's just take a superintendent. You have one superintendent. The state of Maine pays 55% of my salary and benefits under this agreement, and then you share between the 3 districts the remaining 45% of my salary and benefits. So in what you're saving on just a superintendent here in this district, you can probably afford a teacher and an ed tech because you're saving on that superintendent's salary and benefits. That's just one position. Because you're saving on a finance director, you can afford more locally on your own dime. As far as grant funding, we did get quite a few grants in the early stages of Val Unified, over $2 million worth in some FEDES grants for some different things. We were also awarded the regional high school that didn't happen, but there was quite a bit of grant work going on back then. I told you about the outdoor learning grant that we just submitted for. That was essentially a Val Unified grant as well, because we're partnering with the Tech Center in Madawaska as well. So we are ongoing with our grant work as 3 units. Because we approach things as 3 units acting as one, I feel that we've been given a lot more opportunities because we're thinking collaboratively, and that's where the state of Maine has liked to see school districts go in that direction.
Presumably with the HR director, that salary is going to be significantly less than an assistant superintendent.
And I think I had shared that last meeting, Katie, where and that's okay. We're targeting a lesser salary, okay, based on what the state trends are.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's primarily because certification will not be a superintendent certification at that point in time. Whereas if you're an assistant superintendent, you need to be a certified superintendent in the state of Maine. An HR director does not.
Yeah.
So you would be hiring another person to take that position?
It would be replacing Giselle's position with another person. Yes.
Just changing the name of the position?
And the roles and responsibilities, somewhat. Giselle did a lot of HR, but so does Lucy and I, and we'd like to give that to an HR expert who does that.
So this will be helping you, I hope?
I hope.
Okay. Well, because that's my biggest concern. You know, we don't want to burn you out, you know.
And
one person.
HR work is, it's time consuming and it's a lot.
It deserves its own position, for sure. So, do we need a motion?
I had a question. That French integrator we don't have that, right?
That French integrator is, we don't have it right now. That's something I would like to speak with the Val Unified Board about potentially looking at and expanding upon. Because I think we need more French language services in the schools, and targeting a half-time person to piecemeal it in between the 3 districts, I don't think, not only can we not fill it, but I don't think it's beneficial.
Are there any other programs in here that are also not currently being operational?
No, everything else is operational.
So I thought of one question, I'm going to ask it. Except for the things where we get reimbursed by Department of Education, what is the advantage to Valley Unified versus just doing cost-sharing agreements with the 3 districts?
The benefit is what the state of Maine will kick in.
I mean, if we take away the things where we get kickback and just leave the rest of it alone, is there a benefit to being Valley Unified, or would it be the same if we just did shared agreements?
It would be the same, but you wouldn't get the benefit of what the state of Maine provides you under that law.
We only need 4, though.
You need 4 what?
Shared things under Valley Unified in order to get the funding.
You need to check boxes on 4 different areas. And I don't remember what those are, so if you ask me,
I'm not going to ask you that. But I remember that was the thing.
Lucy.
In addition to what's outlined and what's reimbursed, one of the things that we're able to take advantage of is a lot of the technology and software. If you're buying it individually, they're charging you by building. But if we're able to buy it under the Val Unified umbrella, they they're charging it by entity, and then we cost share. So we're able to save,
Mhm.
it's almost like a group discount that we just can't get, even if we say, no, you know, these 3 districts are partnering, they won't go.
Mhm. And I remember that made sense. It'd be like buying a
Yeah, Power
license
School,
for,
the Swift K-12,
Yeah.
Reach, I think Empower,
Yeah.
our student database. There's several entities or software that AnnMarie was able to get the group discount because of Value Fund.
okay.
On our cost formula, our cost, our ED 279, there's also an allocation for Education Service Center members. So you do get a small amount in there as well. Next year, you're projecting $46,000 for SAD 27 because you're part of an Education Service Center. That's also another little financial incentive.
Yeah. So I think Sarah and I have the longest history with all of this, and just the way it was constructed, as I remember it, was we had to share so many things in order to be part of a service center. Some of them we got direct funding for, like superintendent services. Then there was indirect benefit from some of the services because of shared contract agreements. And the reason I'm asking the question is there are a few things that don't necessarily give us a direct financial benefit. And the question was, should we maintain those shared services, or should we pop? I guess what I'm asking is, does it matter if we pop them out of Valley Unified and just do them as a City 27 with Madawaska and 33, or are they within? And I'll explain my hesitation is generally when we pop them into Valley Unified, this board loses its ability to make decisions about it. So it's a balancing act. I think things have been good with Valley Unified, but I think we need to be aware of, I think it's easy to forget the history of how we got here, and I just wanted to kind of touch base. There's things that are absolutely worth it for us because we get reimbursement, and the shared services I agree with. I think that makes perfect sense. The other things, I mean, we shared services beforehand, before Valley Unified. So for those of you who are new.
One of the things that we've done and kept in that respect is Valley Unified itself doesn't employ any of the employees. They're all subcontracted, and the original district still maintains the contract for that employee. So you don't lose the negotiating benefit or the control benefit in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So since Giselle's position was contracted with Madawaska, is that HR position going to stay with Madawaska?
That's what we're looking to do. Madawaska is has a benefit as an employer because they are a municipal district of the town, so they could have what's called a participating local district incentive, which means that you can pay into both Social Security and main state retirement, and get the benefits of both in retirement. We can't do that as an SAD, so it's kind of an attractive thing for them to have.
Now, even though we show support, the other 2 districts are going to have to also show support, right,
Correct.
in order for that to.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially tonight, you're either saying yay or nay for Toby and Shannon, and then they'll take that to Valley Unified.
A motion to support the 2024-25 Valley Unified Shared Services as described in this document.
I'll second Shannon's motion.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? I'll abstain. Motion carries.
All right, moving on to new business items for information. We have a retirement notification. And the first one, you should have an email from Lily Roy. To whom it may concern, I have decided to retire at the end of the 2023-24 school year. I'm thankful for the years that I've been able to work for SAD 27. Sincerely, Lily Roy. This is actually Lily's re-retirement because she was
retired before.
Right, and she's been amazing in the task room, and you know, we totally understand her desire to retire, but we would desperately like to keep her. But it is what it is.
Make a motion to approve Lily's retirement.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
You have another retirement from another ed tech. The second one is from Louise Lulu Daigle. Dear Ben, I'm writing to formally announce my retirement from educational technician at SAD 27 effective the last day of the school year. I deeply appreciate the opportunities and experience garnered here. Thank you for your support throughout my years at SAD 27. This is another ed tech that's been with us for years, and you know, we want to hold on to those dedicated employees, but after 32 years, I think Lulu deserves to retire.
Make a motion to approve Lulu's retirement.
Second.
Shannon, if you can tell. Any discussion? Sorry. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Then we have a resignation announcement. Resignation of a half-time Fort Canada Elementary nurse and a half-time SJVTC health instructor. We've had Rebecca Guerrette with us for since COVID years, helping out as a half-time nurse, and then was also selected for the half-time position at the tech center last year as the 8th grade health teacher. Rebecca applied for the vacancy at the tech center for the allied health instructor, and she was selected for that. So she moves over to SAD 33 for that position, and this is her resignation from SAD 27.
Make a motion to approve Rebecca's resignation.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'll second.
Thank you, Shannon. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
And then with under transfers, you'll see a transfer request letter from Mr. Steve Doucette. Mr. Doucette is requesting to transfer as our CHSNRMS Dean of Students to the principal position at the school. I met with Toby and Sarah to discuss this earlier last week. And although we recognize that Mr. Doucette is one heck of a dean of students, we feel that he's going to be one heck of a principal. Because these type of requests are not common for a transfer of an administrator, I felt it best be approved by the board rather than I approve it myself.
I would move to approve the transfer of Steve Doucette to CHSNRMS principal for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second.
Second from Sarah. Any discussion? I'm going to spoil it a little bit. You're really good at the job you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I want to take a moment to say that it, I'm happy you want to try something new and different, but I want to acknowledge that the work I've seen you do in this position, in your current position, has been phenomenal. And there's my only reservation with accepting this was that I didn't want to see you go from the position you're in, because I've seen how you engage the students, and it's all I could ask for. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I can't take the credit for all the media students' work, because John and I have always worked, shoulder to shoulder. And I'm looking forward to giving the opportunity to have the same type of relationship with somebody else, so that we can continue to have a good culture in the schools.
Well, thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I gave mine too. With that, we have some current openings. Our school psychologist has been open all school year. We'll continue to work on that. We do have our CHS physical education health teacher. That's Mr. Bob Thibodeau's position. Now we'll have a Dean of Students opening at the building with Steve's transfer, and the SAD 27 Technology Coordinator. These are all positions that Sarah and Toby and I discussed as well. We're going to be looking to start rolling on these sooner than later. In the event that we have in-house staff taking some of these positions, we want to make sure that we have time enough to fill fill for the snowball effect. So I do believe we will start with the Dean of Students, and then followed by the Technology Coordinator, and then we'll move forward. If any board member wants to serve on any of those hiring committees, please let me know, and we welcome you to be part of that process as we try to fill some very big shoes in the district.
Are the ed tech positions too ones that are going to be?
We typically wait for the ed techs because we don't know if we're going to have the same need at the end of the year for next year, so we kind of hold off on that until we get a good picture for what our student needs are for next year. Moving on to Part B, in your notes you had links to the comprehensive emergency management plans for 2024. These are brought to you this time of year, every year. Essentially, those are the plans that came from the template from Aroostook Management and then personalized for our schools. The biggest change in the plans is that they now have the behavioral threat assessment management, which is our CSTAG protocol that we do for dangerous behavior, dangerous threats of students. I had reached out to Charlotte Bates, who was the policy director for Maine School Management, about a policy for this, and it was her recommendation that that language be added to the emergency management plans rather than a school policy, just because those protocols are already set based on the guidance from those programs. CSTAG is a program, it's an approved program, and that protocol is very set in stone. Similar to what we would do with ALICE or any of our other emergency programs, that's been added in the emergency management plan for both schools. Other than that, we've just updated some phone numbers, some emails, so that we're all to date with our plan. Any questions on that?
Has anyone read these?
Started to. I clicked on both of them.
Yeah.
I just clicked on them now. Anybody else?
It's a lot of information.
Do we need to vote on this today, or can we take a little time on
You do not need
this?
to vote on this today.
I'd like to read it more thoroughly. I neglected to click on the link. I'm seeing it here. I'm always concerned when we do something extra policy, because ultimately, if there's no policy, there should be no action. And I just want to make sure, because we talked about this, I think, a few months ago,
Yeah.
when this first came up and how this meshes with policy. I know you reached out to her, but I think we should at least make sure there's room in policy for this, even if we mention that it's being done outside of policy. I think it needs to be, there needs to be a policy on it. So I move to table this, give us all a chance to take a good look at it, and we'll ask questions next month.
Sure.
Can I get a second?
Second you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor of doing what I said? Sorry. I ran out of words. Apologies. Tabling this, that's the word. Those are the words.
Item C is the school calendar 24-25 approval. You'll see that the calendar is a new format. We're going with a vertical calendar versus horizontal. It's just a template that was shared with me, and I thought it was kind of neat. When I built it and shared out with the association to get their feedback, I got positive feedback from the association as well. Your important dates now just come on the side of every month, and so we're proposing this for next school year. Very similar scenario with the calendar, whereas we're starting the school year off with 2 workshop days in later August, and then 3 student days this year. All Valley Unified Schools are following the exact same calendar, so Madawaska Elementary is going to try the harvest break this year, so we don't have a separate startup for that school. If you look in December, 2 days before the holiday, you'll see like a different green color, and that's actually a vacation makeup day. So That comes on December 23. If we have a snow day before that date, we would actually make up the snow day on that Monday before the break. If there's no snow day, it will be a vacation day. And that was proposed by the association as a way to not tack on at the end of June. The other change is the workshop. The fall workshop usually comes right after harvest, but because Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day comes a week later next year, it doesn't piggyback with that workshop day, so we put the workshop in November after the parent-teacher conference. Parent-teacher conference is on the 7th, and then we'll have a workshop day after that conference. The March workshop also comes after the parent-teacher conference. That's been like that for years. And your graduation here at SAD 27 will be Friday the 6th of June, with the last student day set for Monday the 16th. A teacher workshop day after that, and then a make-up snow day available before the Juneteenth holiday. Any questions?
I like the format.
Thanks.
It's easier to read.
It's pixelated a little bit, but it won't be when we share it out. It just, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how everything looks for me now, anyway.
Yeah.
But it's definitely easier to follow where dates and all that stuff are.
Personally, I don't like how the last week of school looks. I don't like school ending on a Monday, and it's a half day. That doesn't really help with absenteeism at all.
I agree.
And then if we have to make up a snow day, they're not coming on Wednesday.
I
You know
agree.
what I mean?
I agree.
So that's what I've always kind of picked issue with that.
So if
whenever
we had to
it's
make up a snow day, they'd have a half a day Monday, they'd still be a workshop day Tuesday, and then the makeup day
No,
would be
we
Wednesday?
would bump the workshop day.
Oh, okay.
We'd keep
Okay.
bumping the workshop
That's a
day.
little bit better.
Yeah.
All right.
One thing that we tried to do, Katie, and I agree totally with you, I don't like going into that third week. I want to stay away from the week of the Juneteenth holiday whenever possible. But we're looking at either starting earlier in August. So I had proposed actually a Thursday, Friday workshop in August, the week prior, and that was shut down because a full 5-day week, with students coming back is tough, especially at the elementary level.
Okay.
So the next thing I tried to pick on was the December Christmas break, and what I tried to propose was coming back Monday and Tuesday, and then they would have their 1st of January holiday, and that too was shot down. They wanted the full, complete Christmas break. So
Makes sense. Okay.
the only thing we could do is tack on in June, and I agree with you. I don't like that Monday. Students.
Yeah, but that added clarification though, because like when I was looking at the workshop days in August, I'm like, is that necessary? We could just start school on Monday instead of Wednesday, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you classify a half day as a full day to make up for instead of?
Yep. As long as we serve lunch, it's considered a full day by the Department of Education.
Okay, so I didn't know if you tacked on just a full day instead of a half day of school,
Yeah.
for the workshops, would that be considered making
no.
up a school day instead?
No.
I'm guessing the 23rd will not be terribly well attended if they have to come in as well.
I
Right.
can guarantee.
Probably not.
But staff and students.
I know. And we can't, we can only make up half days. Okay, so we need to have lunch, so we can't have 2 lunches in one day, so we can't put 2 half days together and make a whole day.
No.
Unless we feed them twice.
Correct.
Yeah.
I know the kids would love having 2 lunches one
Yeah.
day.
What you can do, what the department will let you do is come up with a plan. Let's say you'd want to extend school days for an hour and do that for 7 days. They'll let you make up a snow day that way by extending 7 days by an hour. Not a popular thing, but they can do it. They'll allow you to do a Saturday school. Not popular. And what's super easy about this, and I'm being really facetious right now, is that I have to work with 3 school districts and 3 unions on collaboration, and luckily this is where we are and everyone is in agreement.
I just wanted to do my due diligence.
Oh, I
comment about that last
I
week.
hear you.
And,
And I also think that Monday is Camp Kick It Day, or
Dutch
soccer day. So
What if we started a day earlier? In August, started a day earlier instead of
Yeah. I surveyed staff 3 or 4 times on this, so.
Their minds are made up. I'll approve this. So motion to approve the 24-25 Valley Unified Calendar.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
The next item is our discussion on board goals for upcoming contract negotiations. And like Toby said, when he and Sarah and I were meeting and talking about our policy, our negotiation policies, Toby's been able to serve on several negotiations, and the process isn't always the best process as far as ascertaining what the board wants in relation to the outcome of those negotiations. A lot of time we go into it as a committee, as a negotiation team, and then we just bring to you what was discussed and had, and you approve it at that point without having any feedback into the process. So Toby, I'll turn it to you.
Anybody else here do any, have you done this, the negotiations team?
I did one.
You did?
Yeah.
Ed Tex.
Yeah. So the way it usually works is, the way it was working when I was doing it was, we would go into negotiations, and I think the next one is teacher contract. Each one was a little different, but like I'm thinking of the bus drivers and custodian one, which is they have a very organized negotiation strategy where they meet with their union organizer. They come up with the list of asks and the things they're willing to let go, the things they really want. And it always felt a little bit like we just kind of went in there and played little defense. And I always felt like it would be better if the board had an idea of where they wanted to go in their negotiations, what we valued. You know, are we only worried about money? Are we wanting to do other things? We want to accomplish other things. And I really think it's worth the board having that discussion before we send it to the team to negotiate. And I guess that's my pitch, is that is this something the board has an appetite for? I mean, I would imagine it would be in anticipation negotiations. It'd probably be an executive session where we would talk about what we're hoping to accomplish when we negotiate.
So we'd go into executive session and have a copy of what the contract is currently.
Mm-hmm.
And would we have any idea of what they're looking at that point? We just look at it from our point of view and say, we'd like to see this. We'd like to give everybody a 50% raise. And
yeah. Or if we want to target, like, you know, one of the things that we've talked about over the years, and with the when I talk about the teachers, there's always been talk about how we get new teachers in as we have an aging teaching population, and, you know, what can we do? Is that a priority for us, is to get new teachers in? Like, you know, that way we can go in, that's an example of a priority that I think if the board can feel a little more engaged in it, as a board member on that negotiation team, I'd feel better knowing that everybody understands what the goal is. And if I have to choose between A and B, and the board has indicated where they want to go, I'd like to be able to make that decision knowingly.
Yeah, makes sense. Why wouldn't we do it?
What's that?
Why wouldn't we?
Right.
I don't see any reason. It always felt a little detached, like we'd get the contract and we would agree to it, and that's fine, but it'd be nice to know why we're doing what we're doing.
It provides me an opportunity, Giselle and Lucy and I, to update you on some contract language that really has not been favorable to the district, so that you can, you know, get an understanding of why we are going to be attacking this language. So it kind of is a good opportunity to front load that with you as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Good. So
what do we do?
I don't think we need to do anything. I mean, when's the next negotiation start?
We have not received notice from the association that they're ready, but I think when we do, then we have a certain time frame we have to respond. I think that's going to be our signal that we need to come together as a board. And
about how big is the time frame?
Usually the 3 months, 120 days.
So maybe once we get notice, the next board meeting, we schedule executive session.
Yep.
That sound okay with everybody?
That's great.
And maybe we can talk about, as we're amending those negotiations policies, dropping language in there that says upon receipt from one of the unions or
Yep.
groups that are represented, that we have an executive session to
Outline
discuss
this
it.
process,
Yeah,
yep.
that way it's built in, we do it every time.
Yep.
Is that okay with everybody? Dave? Kelly? All right.
Makes sense.
Sarah, I didn't ask you because I can't see you, and also because you were okay with it the other day. You said it was give me a double negative support.
I couldn't see why not. Something like that.
Yeah, it's not a terrible idea. I think it was not a terrible idea. I think that's what I got from
That
you.
sounds like something
It's the closest thing to an endorsement you're going to get from Sarah. Okay, so we're done with the regular meeting. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to MRSA Section 4056A to discuss annual evaluation of the superintendent.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? We're in executive session.